Greetings, this is Anna Parker, on the World 24. In today's show, we cover the large-scale and intense wildfires sweeping across the northern hemisphere, carrying vast amounts of smoke across Eurasia and North America, leading to increased carbon and smoke emissions and severe air pollution. Next, we discuss Kamala Harris' vow that Americans will not return to the chaos of the Trump years, as she makes her campaign trail debut in Wisconsin, highlighting her vision for the country and the support she has garnered from key Democratic figures. And lastly, we report on Donald Trump's campaign filing a complaint against Kamala Harris for allegedly violating federal campaign finance laws by taking over Joe Biden's campaign funds, a move seen as an attempt to slow down her momentum. Preceding, we cover the large-scale and intense wildfires sweeping across the northern hemisphere, carrying vast amounts of smoke across Eurasia and North America, leading to increased carbon and smoke emissions and severe air pollution. Large-scale and intense wildfires have been sweeping across the northern hemisphere, carrying vast amounts of smoke across Eurasia and North America. Research by the Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service, or CAMS, has shown that these wildfires have been developing throughout late spring and summer, with numerous fires burning in Canada, Alaska, and eastern Russia. These wildfires are generally caused by long periods of hot and dry conditions in areas of high vegetation, resulting in increased carbon and smoke emissions. Smoke has also begun to extend much farther north, reaching across the Arctic Ocean to the high Arctic. Emissions from Russian wildfires in June and July were higher than in the preceding 2 years. Fires in the region of Amur Oblast led to the estimated release of 17.2 megatons of carbon for the 2-month period, the highest in 22 years. Canada has also experienced some of its highest totals on record, with total carbon emissions of 11.1 megatons and 13.2 megatons for British Columbia and Alberta respectively across June and July. Mark Parrington, a senior scientist at CAMS, said, "We have been closely monitoring boreal fires in CAMS over a number of years and noted some particularly extreme wildfire emissions and atmospheric impacts during that time, particularly in Canada, eastern Russia, and the Arctic." Increasing wildfire activity is a major factor in these rising smoke emissions. Guillermo Rain, a professor of fire science in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Imperial College London, said, "In recent years the fire season is expanding, starting earlier and lasting longer. But it's not just the fact the wildfire season is widening, it's also that the intensity of wildfire season is becoming unprecedented." According to official Russian figures, the number of wildfires this year has decreased by 30% compared with the previous year, but the area burnt is 50% larger, highlighting the intensity of the wildfires. These increased smoke emissions have led to very high levels of air pollution and can lead to various health complications. Dr. Marina Romanello, a research fellow at the UCL Institute for Global Health, said, "In the short term, the most obvious complications are to respiratory systems, proving particularly dangerous for people that have underlying conditions like asthma, heart disease, and lung disease." However, as the incidence of wildfires is increasing, people are being repeatedly exposed to acute levels of wildfire-related air pollution, increasing their risk of developing chronic conditions like cardiovascular disease and cancer. Concentrations of very small harmful particulates in the smoke, known as PM2.5, have been found to be several times higher than the World Health Organization's recommended 24-hour mean exposure threshold across a widespread region that includes eastern Mongolia, northeastern China, and northern Japan. Romanello said, "PM2.5 particles are able to go very deep into the lungs, past the lung-blood barrier, and enter the bloodstream, making these high levels of smoke emissions particularly concerning." While 2024's estimated wildfire carbon emissions are very high so far, the season is still well short of the catastrophic 2023 season, when much of North America experienced record high levels of PM2.5. Rain said, "We don't think this season is going to break any records, but it's a strange situation where we've been seeing the worst in the records for so long that when you see it you think things are okay, when actually it's still pretty bad." And that concludes our Fist coverage of the show. Next, we discuss Kamala Harris' vow that Americans will not return to the chaos of the Trump years, as she makes her campaign trail debut in Wisconsin, highlighting her vision for the country and the support she has garnered from key Democratic figures. Kamala Harris vowed on Tuesday that Americans were not going back to the chaos of the Donald Trump years, as she made her campaign trail debut in battleground Wisconsin with just over 100 days left before the election. In a fiery speech a day after securing enough Democratic delegates to win the party's nomination, the vice president sought to frame the contest against Trump as a choice between starkly different visions for the country, casting his as regressive and backward-looking and hers as optimistic and forward-looking. Do we want to live in a country of freedom, compassion and rule of law, or a country of chaos, fear and hate? She asked, drawing roaring applause and chants of Kamala, reflecting an enthusiasm that has eluded Democrats in recent months. As Harris arrived in Milwaukee, the two most powerful Democrats in Congress, the Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, and the House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, threw their support behind Harris during a joint press conference in Washington, D.C. Democrats are moving forward stronger and more united than ever before, Schumer told reporters on Tuesday, adding that he had seen a surge of enthusiasm from every corner of our party since Joe Biden's decision to withdraw from the presidential race and endorse his vice president. In short order, Harris consolidated support among the party, ending weeks of internal drama following Biden's calamitous debate performance last month that exacerbated voters' concerns about the 81-year-old president's fitness to serve another 4 years, and a discussion over who could replace him if he bowed out. Fears of a messy contest for the nomination never materialized, as members of Congress, party activists, labor leaders and would-be rivals lined up behind Harris. The campaign, which she inherited from Biden, was renamed, and has raised an astonishing $100 million in 36 hours. At the rally on Tuesday, Harris drew a sharp contrast between herself, a history-making prosecutor, and Trump, the first president ever to be convicted of a felony. I took on perpetrators of all kinds: predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain, she said to roaring applause. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. She added, I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week. During a visit to campaign headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware, on Monday, Harris acknowledged that the last few weeks had been a roller coaster, but sought to project calm and a sense of continuity. She announced that Jen O'Malley Dillon would continue to lead the campaign and that Julie Chavez Rodriguez would remain in her role as campaign manager. Promising a people-powered campaign, Harris told supporters in Milwaukee that building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency. She also vowed to stop Republicans' extreme abortion bans, saying that Democrats trust women to make decisions about their own body. Tuesday's event was scheduled even before Biden dropped his bid for the presidency, but took on renewed resonance as Harris ascended to the top of the Democratic ticket at an extraordinary moment in American politics. Just days before, Republicans left their party's convention in Milwaukee, projecting confidence about their prospects in November after nominating Trump just days after he survived an assassination attempt, along with his running mate, the 39-year-old senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance. As Democrats called on their party's leader to step aside, Republicans emerged energized and united. Surveys taken since Biden's withdrawal have shown a nail-bitingly close contest, with Harris running marginally stronger than Biden was against Trump. A Reuters, Ipsos poll released on Tuesday found Harris opened up a small 2 percentage point lead over Trump. On Tuesday, the Trump campaign's pollster Tony Fabrizio circulated a memo warning of a Harris honeymoon that would see a temporary rise in public opinion before Republican attacks on her begin to sink in. While acknowledging the situation we find ourselves in today is totally uncharted territory, he insisted the fundamentals of the race stay the same, and Trump remains in a strong position to win in November. Danielle Butterfield, executive director for Priorities USA, one of the largest liberal super PACs, said Biden's decision to end his re-election bid had given Democrats an opening to turn the contest into a referendum on the former president. Without an incumbent on the ticket, we believe we have a renewed chance to make this election about the future, she told reporters during a briefing on Tuesday. The group's data showed Harris was exciting key Democratic constituencies, especially among Black and Hispanic voters and young people. It's our number one job to remind voters why they voted against Trump in 2020, Butterfield added. Republicans quickly pivoted to the vice president. Trump has already assailed Harris, a former California senator, as dangerously liberal, part of Republicans' effort to tie her to Biden's record on the economy and immigration, the Democrats' weakest issues. This week, House Republicans were weighing whether to bring to the floor a resolution condemning her handling of the border as vice president, even though her mission was to address the root causes of migration, not immigration policy. She's the same as Biden but much more radical, Trump said on Tuesday, on a call with reporters, aimed at hammering Harris over border security and immigration. She's a radical left person and this country doesn't want a radical left person to destroy it. That's all he's got, Harris' husband, the second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, said of Trump's attacks during a visit to a reproductive rights clinic in McLean, Virginia, earlier in the day. There, he raised Trump's legacy of appointing the conservative justices who ended the constitutional right to an abortion, which he said paved the way for a post-Dobbs hellscape. Wisconsin is considered one of the blue wall battleground states that is critical to the Democrats' hopes of winning the White House in November. Trump won Wisconsin in 2016 and 4 years later Biden clinched the state. The path to the White House goes through Wisconsin, Harris told the raucous crowd. By the time Harris took the stage in Milwaukee on Tuesday, the high school where she spoke was standing room only. A campaign official said organizers received so many requests to attend the event that they were forced to find a larger venue at the last minute. I'm glad Joe Biden is passing the torch, said Sue Fearson, a longtime Democratic Party voter who said she had been worried about what might happen if Biden stepped down, but warmed to the idea once it seemed clear Harris would take over at the top of the ticket. I'm trying to be in the moment, said Cammie Graham, a 51-year-old secretarial worker who attended the rally. I feel confident and excited. She knows what to do and she will get the young vote that the Democrats need. For Olivia De La Rosa, who is 18 and votes absentee from Brazil, the 2024 presidential election will be her first opportunity to vote. It's very exciting, said De La Rosa, who attended the rally with her grandmother, who lives in Milwaukee. I can't wait for the debate. I'm looking forward to Harris bringing down the hammer. This is it for our second coverage. And lastly, we report on Donald Trump's campaign filing a complaint against Kamala Harris for allegedly violating federal campaign finance laws by taking over Joe Biden's campaign funds, a move seen as an attempt to slow down her momentum. Donald Trump's campaign has filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission against Vice President Kamala Harris. The complaint accuses Harris' 2024 campaign of violating federal campaign finance laws by replacing Joe Biden's name with her own to take control of his campaign funds. The complaint, filed by Trump's general counsel, David Warrington, argues that the Biden campaign could not rename its committee from Biden for President to Harris for President once Biden dropped out of the race on Sunday, and roll over $91 million. This is little more than a thinly veiled $91.5 million excessive contribution from one presidential candidate to another, that is, from Joe Biden's old campaign to Kamala Harris' new campaign. This effort makes a mockery of our campaign finance laws, the 8-page complaint said. Federal candidates are prohibited from keeping contributions for elections in which they do not participate, it added. Biden for President 2024 has shown no intention to properly refund or redesignate the general election funds it has already received. This makes them all excess contributions. Whether the complaint generates traction with the FEC remains unclear, but the Trump campaign has been looking for any way to slow down the momentum Harris has been able to generate with voters and donors after she quickly became the presumptive Democratic nominee. The strategy, according to people familiar with the matter, has included opening new legal battles to try to prevent Harris from accessing Biden's funds, although the complaint on Tuesday stopped short of a lawsuit. Warrington made that explicit request to the FEC in the complaint, asking the agency to enjoin the transfer. And if the FEC were to deem the transfer unlawful, the complaint said, it would ask the FEC to consider issuing a fine or making a criminal referral to the U.S. Justice Department. The Harris campaign has viewed the FEC complaint as a spurious legal effort to throw sand in their gears, noting that the Biden-Harris committees have always been authorized committees for either Biden or Harris, according to a person familiar with the thinking. In a statement, the Harris campaign noted that they had raised $100 million in donations in the 36 hours since Biden withdrew from the 2024 race, adding, baseless legal claims, like the ones they've made for years to try to suppress votes and steal elections, will only distract them. The complaint, earlier reported by the New York Times, also argued that Harris taking over Biden's remaining campaign funds amounted to an excessive unlawful contribution given that Biden for President was not an authorized committee for the Harris campaign. If Mr. Biden will not seek the Democratic Party's nomination, then he will never participate in the general election, and all general election contributions received by Biden for President are excessive and must be disposed of, the complaint said. And this is it. This concludes our coverage for today. We thank you for joining us, and remember, the conversation continues online on our social media channels. To stay up to date with our developing stories, don't forget to subscribe. For now, from all of us from the World 24 on Fishstock News, good night and see you next time.